Hello, hello. Okay, yay. I love it when the mics work. All right, everyone. It is my honor to welcome all of you here today to today's Foglifter event. Give yourselves a round of applause for supporting the queer literary arts. I'm going to take this off because, up here I think some of the writers have the option of taking it off. So, writers, you can keep it on or you can take it off, however you like. But thank you to everyone for keeping your masks on during tonight's event. We're just doing what we can to keep everybody safe, which is why that wall is open. If you're to put your coats back on if it gets a little chilly. My name is Baruch Boris Hernandez, and I am the Community Events Manager here at Strut. What is Strut? If you don't know who we are a program of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. We are a sexual health and wellness center for everyone in the queer community. Traditionally, you must have heard that we used to only test men who have sex with men. And then in 2015 when we opened here, but even before that, we were not turning people away. But after we opened here in this building, we used to be around the corner in 2015, we now serve everyone. That means everyone, no matter what gender, how you identify, what your background is, who you have sex with, or even if you don't have sex. We offer free HIV testing, STI testing. We help you get PrEP. We help you get PEP. We help you navigate other health stuff. We also have 2 trans programs that are organized and led by our trans staff that do everything from health navigation to hormone advice to even hormone shots. And not just that, we have social programs as well. We have programs that serve the African American community, the Latino community, like Apoyo Latino, Black Brothers Esteem. We also have a harm reduction program. You're like, what's that? It's like the opposite of like shame and you're a terrible person for being an addict. Harm reduction is like, actually, you're not a terrible person. How about we do some counseling so you can do less harm to yourself while you are engaging with substances. So leading you to a more healthier choices and better path. That program is called the Stonewall Project. And we have all these other programs because it's a huge organization and they do a lot out of this little, building. And then I'm just the art guy. So it's my favorite part of my job doing stuff like this because I love queer writers and I love Foglifter and what they do. If you want to find out more about our other events, we have art openings, we have comedy nights, we have mental health comedy hour, we have sketch nights, and now that things are hopefully, knock on wood, getting better, we're going to start doing more in-person events like this. Just go to sfaf.org. You can also go there, take an appointment. If you'd like to come back and use our services, please do. You don't even have to be a San Francisco resident. You can be anyone who needs to have some sort of sexual health services. You can use our services. You can make an appointment, or you can walk in and make an appointment with us. You can make one online. I unfortunately don't work in the clinic, so I feel bad sometimes when people are like, but you said we could make an appointment. And I'm just like, I'm so sorry. But yeah, we are open most days except for Mondays and Sundays from 10 a.m. till about 8. So I think that's it. Oh, please take out your cell phones, your iPhones, your pagers, and make sure that the noisy part is all the way off. You don't want to be that person whose phone goes off during a very quiet poem, because, we will give you dirty looks. I was in a show once where the artist on stage chewed out the person and made that part of the show, and it was uncomfortable for everyone. So, it didn't work. It was like, oh, this is not a part of the show. It's terrible. So please silence your cell phones. But tweet, talk about how awesome it is to be here, and tell people to support Foglifter on your phone. What else? I think that's it, right? Please help me welcome to our beautiful little stage, Luiza!
Thank you so much for being here to celebrate Foglifter's issue launch with us. We are really, really excited to be at Strut, which is our home when we get to come together in person. I wanted to mention that we had an ASL interpreter booked, but a couple hours ago they came down sick. So unfortunately we will not be offering interpretation. But if you're watching this on Instagram, or you're streaming, we will upload this to YouTube and then we will work on their captions to make them better. So we will do that as much as we can. So, all right, so I am Elisa. I am Foglifter's managing editor. when I'm not doing our nitty-gritty admin, I'm writing poetry, mixing cocktails, and hanging out with my fluffy mutt, Winnie. If you're new to Foglifter, as Brooke mentioned, we are a biannual journal of the newest, most urgent and dynamic and delightful queer and trans writing being written today. Before we get started, I just want to tell you about a couple ways that you can be a part of Foglifter. And once this reading ends, you won't want to wait one more minute before you get more involved. So we're open for submissions to our next journal issue until May 1st, which is tomorrow. So we have all day tomorrow at 12 p.m. or a.m. and it's all day tomorrow. So you can do that. That's amazing. We have free submissions. Our honorarium has increased to $50 per contributor. So that's very exciting. We're also looking for passionate, hardworking volunteers to be part of our small, all-volunteer staff. If you're a queer or trans writer and you want to get even more involved, we're looking for a managing poetry editor, a development assistant, and a digital production manager, and those applications close tomorrow. Also, on your seat, you will find our demographics survey. This audience survey helps us better serve you, our amazing community. So if you could please fill that out. If you need a pen, we have them over there. And if you could just return them on your way out to our staff. Okay, so I am going to be introducing, first I also wanted to say that our incredible incoming editor-in-chief, MJ, was supposed to be here sharing the stage with me tonight. They are also unwell, so just shout out to them if you're watching, MJ, I love you. And they will be hopefully at the next big event that we do. So now I'm going to begin introducing our fabulous and talented contributors to this issue. So first up, Briana Grogan. Briana is a Black queer femme from Southern California. Her poetry found form in San Francisco, where they currently live and work as a bookstore clerk. She is an MFA candidate in poetry at Mills College. Their writing explores the silence in grief and rejoice in healing. Please welcome Briana.
Okay, so I'm going to be reading from my thesis tonight, and then I'm also reading one piece that's not part of the thesis, but everything was kind of connected, so that's really cool. But to give some context, I'll lower this a little bit. So my thesis title is On Survival, and I explore the complications that came with the prolonged death of my mom. Her name was Clamaria, and throughout the thesis I grapple with the disidentification of Black womanhood, and I string lyric to memories of her as well. So I'm gonna start. Belly-filled hot Cheetos, I slept in the only ghetto that was Culver City. I searched for things here. My Tweety Bird jelly sandals, a balance slipped on the 5th step from the bottom. My second dog, Car strolled and rolled over his back leg. And by 10, it was my mother. We moved because some things can never be found. And by 10, I'd consider better ways to lose a Black mother, from old age or maybe even death on impact. My mother could have died on January 8th, 2006, but we couldn't let her die until July 17th, 2013. At 10, I didn't realize I'd ask my mother to stay and suffer for me again. Despite the 10 centimeters dilated, the contractions, the pushing with no epidural, I asked her to stretch herself upon a hospital bed again. This time, not for 20 hours, but for 7 years. And by 17, I'd consider better ways to end my own mother's life. But there wasn't one. Just a trembled lip and a conscience. Everyone was silent, and as the youngest in the room, I broke it. Well, I think we should take her off of life support. It should be noted that I don't remember if this is exactly what I said, but I remember feeling like I regretted it. At 25, sometimes I choose to lie on my back and I think about my mother and how hers was not a choice. And I regret that too, that the world gave her no choice and I took that from her too. I regret taking my own mother's life, but the point of this poem is that I know she wanted me to. Legend says Clemeria chose to be sober. After growing up with a mother who couldn't mother without living within walking distance of a liquor store, she refused to belly her wounds in a glass. She was the fairest in her family, cast cold and Creole, different daddy from her younger sister, yet never a good man around. Had she not distanced herself from walls that peeled a mother's muse, she may have wound up vodka vein, sob stumbled, and tender-tempered like I did. January 22nd, 2022, in a shoebox apartment in the Mission. He buzzed me in, made me walk up 3 flights of stairs, catch my breath before knocking on the door. I only swipe on men when I'm looking for power. The first breakthrough I had with my black therapist was admitting the closest I feel to power is when a white person is moaning my name. But I thought I'd done the work until somehow another white they them dumped me, and somehow I ended up in the Mission, walking up 3 flights of stairs, catching my breath in some Ukrainian man's bed. And that's the funny thing about white people. While they anchor me to power, they always find a way to remind me it's temporary. Okay, so the last piece I'm going to read is the piece that Foglifter decided to publish, so thank you so much. All right, so it's titled Miss Getty, and I think it's on page 146 if you ever want to check it out. Okay. I saw a tweet recently that said, "Who is Getty and why is she on all the images?" When you Google the word Clemeria, click on images. In the second row to the far right, you'll find one photo of my mother, the only one that lives on the internet, and it belongs to Getty. The caption reads, "Briana Grogan of Los Angeles can't control her joy at having her lottery number picked at Santa Monica Toy Store Friday for opportunity to purchase Elmo for her 6-month-old daughter, Briana." There she is, written into the archives of Los Angeles Times, but I'd have to pay at least $175 to license it. And when you drag the image into Google search engine, the possible related search suggests happy. But I suppose I'm a mixed bag. Equal parts offended and honored, mainly because I can't stop thinking about the 2021 Met Gala, how the rich willingly dressed to match the American fashion theme, how they were happy, how they couldn't control their joy, how they were given this opportunity, while Ella Dior was detained and misgendered in the same breath as mutual aid posts in their lilac mini dress. And all that made it to our main feeds were images of celebrities on cream-colored steps and Miss Getty's logo. Thank you so much.
All right, next up, T.L. Pavlich is a writer and theater artist whose work has appeared in Sonora Review, Hobart Pulp, The Offing, among others. They received the 2018 SMC Lambda Literary Fellowship and a residency at Banff Center for Arts and Creativity. TL is features director at The Rumpus and at work on a memoir that explores mourning a suicide while wrestling with suicidal ideation. Please welcome TL.
Hi, how's it going? It's been a weird week for me, so I don't know what's going to happen here, but hopefully it won't be bad. I was not, the piece that Foglifter has published is really depressing, so I thought I would read something about the end of the world instead. So it's from a work of progress, and it's called Immolation. Let you see my lips. I'd known Jimmy since pre-K, and he was like all the glitter we used back then to decorate cardstock hand turkeys and Mother's Day cards. The only way to get rid of him was to set fire to everything you owned, which I tried. And coincidentally, that was why he didn't trust me to be left alone at the end of the world in my little cabin full of flammable paper books. It's a little bit of the pot calling the kettle suicidal, if you ask me. But what Jimmy didn't understand was that the chance that I'd not burn up with all the books was too great a risk. I literally cannot imagine a worse possible situation than being alive in this post-electric hellscape without my books. To clarify, I didn't set my house on fire on purpose. I was trying to start a fire in my fireplace, and I had some gin. And this was before we lost power, when I still lived in Oakland and the world wasn't ending yet. I was trying to set the mood for a night in by using my fireplace for real, instead of just lighting a few candles stuck in empty liquor bottles and placing them on the hearth like I normally did. Anyway, I didn't think about clearing the area around the fireplace, and when I moved into that house, I'd hung some very heavy velvet drapes to create a certain ambiance in the room. And after I got the fire going, the breeze from the jammed window blew the drapes into the fire, and they caught flame quite quickly. I just kind of did nothing. I stood there and considered my options, as if from a distance. I figured I could either run or try and fight the fire, or I could pour myself another glass of gin, watch the flames, and wait for death. I'd heard that the smoke would kill you before the flames, so I figured it wouldn't hurt too much. And yet, there was something about a new, unencumbered life, one without the accumulated possessions, that excited me, almost made me want to live. But I knew I'd eventually acquire new belongings and new burdens, so as the flames covered the wall around the fireplace, jumping to the adjacent walls, breaking out the glass in the window that got such great morning light, I poured 2 fingers of gin and took a seat in the tattered armchair across from the hearth. Watching the flames grab hold of the artwork I'd carefully installed on the walls years before, I took a sip and let the botanical liquid cool for a moment on my tongue before swallowing. I wondered at the fact that I was not experiencing any nostalgia, not seeing my life flash before my eyes. I was so very present, so in the moment. I was at peace. It was a graceful surrender. I watched the flames and sipped my gin, enjoying my final moment. Then, the firefighter who had been yelling at me to move picked me up and threw me over his shoulder. The shock of the manhandling caused me to drop my glass, spilling a good finger of gin and shattering crystal. As he carried me out of the house, I glimpsed the moment the flames reached the spilled gin and jumped to twice their height before he stepped outside and I lost sight of the burning room. After that, it was a whole mess. People were assuming arson because I didn't try and leave or fight the fire. I had to do this whole psych evaluation, and then they made me stay for a few days in the locked ward where they took away my belt and shoelaces and made me attend group therapy and listen to guided meditation tapes. I can't remember why I was telling you all of this. Oh, right, because the fire was not on purpose. It was an accident. That was years ago now. After the psych ward stay, the fire department ruled that it wasn't arson because it wasn't. So I was able to get some insurance money and decided to use it to move out of the bay. A rolling stone doesn't gather any, junk or whatever. After securing my little cabin in Nevada and buying a new mattress, which I put on the floor, I spent the remaining insurance payout on new books. And now the world was ending, and all I wanted to do was finish my to-be-read pile. But Jimmy kept coming to check on me and bringing his family and trying to get me to move into some survivalist commune bullshit with the rest of them. As far as the end of the world, I should tell you about that. It started with power outages. They were doing these scheduled outages to ration power across the country or something like that, I don't know. Most people did things to prepare. They brought bread and bottled water and shit like that. I felt like that was a little excessive. Personally, I use the outages to catch up on reading and naps. When life gives you lemons, you squeeze them, or, you know. I got through my entire bedside stack of books and 4 survival candles during the planned outages. And then one day our power just didn't come back. For the first few months, people came together, tackling the problems caused by the loss of power with clever, collaborative solutions. And then there was this peculiar shift, almost an atmospheric change, and people grew insular, suspicious. They didn't seem to be any event that caused the shift, at least not that I heard about. I think it's just the stunted communication of a world without power meant we had to trust each other and trust organizations in a way we really hadn't before, not in our lifetime. And everyone just reached the limit of that trust. I managed to withdraw most of my money in cash before the banks were decimated, but my savings account disappeared before I could empty it. I used cash to buy liquor, cigarettes, and as many Snickers bars as I could find. I figured the normal dollar currency wouldn't be worth much, but booze, food, and camels could be used for bargaining. Other people bought things like canned food and more bottled water, which I guess was more logical. But here's the thing. Those people were trying to survive. I just wanted to work my way through the to-be read pile until the end came. Some people refused to accept that it was the end, saying it was the beginning of a new era. But most knew what it really was. I don't know when everyone else realized it was the end. Probably some folks recognized it before the power even went out for good. Personally, I figured it out was the end when my copy of the New Yorker didn't show up. That's horrible, isn't it? Sounds like a really bad joke, but it's true. That was the moment I knew I was living in through the end of the world. Competitors had sprung up, and the UPS and FedEx were experiencing a kind of renaissance. But the USPS was still the primary carrier in the States. And one week, maybe a month after the power was gone, but before the superbug hit, my mailman delivered the mail on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, all without the New Yorker. When I saw him on Saturday, I asked where it was, and he said there hadn't been any that week. And that was when I knew. So many other industries were rendered useless in the aftermath of losing power: finance, advertising, manufacturing, the whole tech world. There were a lot of suicides in the beginning. Mostly the people who had been really high on the intoxicating power of wealth and capitalism. But the people who survived started to adapt. Soon nothing looked like it used to. After the power had been gone for over a year, I read the Canterbury Tales, and I recognized the world in Chaucer's text more than the world I found in any of the contemporary books I read. I even noticed, I'm sorry, no one wants to hear my literary takes. My point is, the world as we knew it was coming to an end, and there are no zombies or aliens involved, just us and the unraveling of everything we had built. Thank you.
Dior Stevens is a proud Pisces hailing from Midwestern waters. He is the author of Screams in Lavender, 001, and Cannon. There's an exclamation point. All with Ghost City Press. He is the visual arts editor for Variety Pack magazine and has previously served as guest editor for Ghost City Press's summer series. Please welcome Dior.
How y'all feeling? Cute. My name's Dior J Stevens, and I'm tall for some godforsaken reason. All right. I'm going to start off with the poem that Foglifter is publishing. Thanks to Foglifter. It's Trash Timber 10. Trash Timber is a whole collection about poems that should not be good that ended up being a collection of poems. So this shows my work ethic is all messed up. Trash Timber 10. All that time I should have spent submitting, I spent submitting to you. Why pitch my softballs for a prize when you are the prize? Been sewing worth into my skin and rezoned my body as gated community. When I say, tell me everything you think you know about baby blue boy crops. Don't act like you know, no talk about cultivation, no talk about irrigation. You only know how to water me in single digits and strikeouts. Terraform my body, make it something less familiar. I left the city and you waxed on, waxed off my ass. Didn't I give you all my summertime fine? Didn't I drown the noise of XXX excess? Didn't I lay my amethyst carpet down in your holy halls nightly? For the mightiest supplication, we made movies and made enemies together. I guess I should have auditioned for a different role. Didn't you know, didn't you know? You'll only reap rows of silent sunflowers if you come hungry round these parks. After the hot road of summer comes a February fairy's infamous ice age. I rose the bridge, dragon bombed the Scorpion Kingdom, and dipped out stage left. I'd offer to cover your medical bills, but all that time I spent submitting to you left us both stone cold and bleach broke. You would hate if I told you you switched up. You wasn't good enough. You would hate if I told you he's doing sexier than you, but you already know. You'll always kiss it better. Remember, no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't get clean for you. I guess none of that matters now. The dark mood is rising, and we've played enough with danger for the season. You said, and then. All right, that was Trash Timber. Trash. Trash. This next piece is a poem from a series I worked on called For You February, which I had a workshop in the Land Literary Emerging Poets Retreat, which was really great. Shout out to them. This is FYF 11 through 12. I show you on the spot, make yard paper my first course. Where there's an angle, there's a wolf, and the Lord just took his first 15. Picking up on undercurrents of Black language, current orientation, flatboard prophetic. Heard the drums of what might be once at an after party in East. Lord as gender neutral, Lord as gender queer, Lord as two pigtails, Lord as gender rat, Lord as Superman ice cream, Lord as water rooster, Lord as hieroglyphic mouth, Lord as they. If you truly glide your impulse into that great black corner pocket, you might never know a hangnail's love again. If you truly wishboned our backs into utopia, no one would have to ask if we're there yet. Mind check, cue desire, and Siri pops 2 white caps in my tunnel vision. A fish manages me, tells me when to send emails, when to say no, when to uptake my probiotic intake. A golden, broken spine evolution, considering chaos as praxis. Bullet point manifesto of a new Black hegemonic. Scriptures written in Vaseline flames, hymn books sung in the witching hours to remove he from the equation. Or rather, include they, she, they, us. Creating a tongue of sinner vowels and altruistic consonants. The flame too hot to lasso, the red eye of desire fleetingly fulfilled. Alright, thank you. I don't want to read this one. We're going to move on. Okay. I'm all week, and you know what? I feel free by that decision. Amen. We're going to move on to a better selection here. This is from my forthcoming collection being published with Nightbook Books titled Cruel Cruel. Coming out, thank you. Coming out next year, Pisces season. It's relevant, but it'll always be relevant. All right, this is for 2021. Light reflecting by the orange moon of my last heart. Tell me how the wind chimes from 6 miles down the pass. feeling the same song sung over time, 6 years running, Apollo landing and then Saturn return. A sweet picking of scabs, a bright towel brushed over 9-inch knife wounds, reflecting strands of feminine joy passed down the 3-line. Tell me how nectarful the forward 6s march. Tell me the prize has upped its elemental. Till the marble tumbles and the moon sinks, till the past passes, till then, till God, till Willie, till Murray, till all the cups have been spilled. Thank y'all.
Alberto, are you here? Okay, amazing. I wasn't sure, sorry. Okay, very tall now. I'm doing great. Okay, Alberto Quintero was born in Mexico and now lives in California and goes to Stanford. He edited with Carmen Pelosa, Let's Talk About Your Wall, Mexican Writers Respond to the Immigration Crisis, The New Press 2020. He is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Literalia. Please welcome Alberto.
Thank you. This is a fragment of the piece Foglifter published. The story of a doll. The day I saw the photo was the first time I truly missed Mexico. I had been in New York for nearly a year. It was a hot summer day, but that morning, Brooklyn struck me as a massive gray concrete slab. The night before, they read me a story they had saved on their phone, written by a girl named Mara, an old lover from Monterey. It was an autobiographical short story about an elusive yet extravagant painter with whom she had fallen in love when she was only 13. More than a story, it was an act of expiation of ecstatic desire, in which Mara's playful self is transfigured into a doll in a painting. The conjurer's name, Julio Galan. Julio Galan, what a beautiful and perfect name. Gallant, a Casanova. Julio Galan, I repeated the name quietly and tried to etch the words on my brain to prevent them from drowning in all the mezcal and the echo of the music banging in my head. The next day, as I fought my hangover at the library, the name surfaced in my mind. I typed the words on the screen, and there it was, a photograph taken in 1993. The untitled image was both powerful and disturbing. It wasn't really a beautiful image, or at least I didn't think so at first. Yet there was something aesthetic about it, not for what it was or what it meant, but for what it produced in me. It was a sensual affectation, which I felt first only as an imprecise manifestation. A porcelain doll is standing next to Julio. He is dressed in the old Victorian way, a tight little black suit with a flared jacket and tight knickerbockers. 2 white flower-shaped frills adorn his neck. The black painted porcelain at the lower legs simulate old-fashioned long culottes and a pair of sharp boots. Julio is also wearing a black suit, but with a much more modern style. And instead of the flowery attire, he has a more traditional white shirt and a tie with a diamond pattern. Both are placed against a long, hirsute black velvet backdrop that falls behind the bodies and extends underneath them far beyond the boundaries of the frame. What is that body doing so close to the other? The man and his doll are joined by an intimate gesture that defied the scrutiny of my gaze. But I caressed the photograph nonetheless with my greedy eyes, trying to understand that delicate gesture exhibited without shame in which a man holds tenderly the hand of a doll. Julio shows a haughty gaze, as if he knew something we could not know, and the whole scene is sustained by this intimacy that rejects nothing and affords him a sort of strange pride. As I rummaged through the intimacy exposing the picture, I felt my body was lost and found again in a strange rapture, stretched out like a colorless linen sheet and expanded throughout the room. It was an affectation that heralded a sort of becoming intimate with that piece of matter which is my body, and the space it occupies, opening to an arcane possibility whose true dimension is still unknown to me. Julio Galán had a maniac devotion to dolls. He owned a collection of more than 300. Among them all was one who was special, the transvestite doll. Julio found her in Morelia City, central Mexico, and turned her into a boy named after the city. Julio kept Morelia on display in a special place, inside a bell-shaped glass cover in the middle of his living room. He spent hours dreaming of the past life of the dolls, who owned them, how they were treated, what they did, or if they ever felt pain. Morelia was the golden doll in the picture. Julio Galán's obsession has often been interpreted as a longing for the primal and the natural. People are eager to believe that something happened in his childhood that motivated this form of madness, and that the transfigurations in his life and work were an incessant attempt to return to an original form of innocence. Sexual abuse? No, he always denied it. Trauma seems all too easy a way out of the problem of the monster, the safest way to keep the deviant at bay so we can watch it from afar with pitiful eyes. That day I recognized something in me that knew how to speak to the world of the doll, and although it was just the faintest trace, it was still a response from my body to the reverberations of a luminous obscurity, radiating from somewhere far beyond and yet close to me. I got a hunch that I had known this feeling, but I had long forgotten how to recognize it. Yet it had been with me all along. It was with me when I moved to New York and left before that, and long before that. It was with me when I fell off the bike and broke my face. And it was with me when I answered the phone that night at the library to speak to my father. The doll was the Miss Enabim of the man in the photo. That was my epiphany. There is no better journey to try the impossible as the ineffable silence of the ship stranded in the Abyss Gorge. A delicate bedazzlement was transmitted to me by the obscure glass stare of the doll fixing his gaze in the region outside the picture, a gaze strong enough to hold the leaden hand that falls like the sound of a man falling into the abyss. The hollow human mask of the doll brought me into correspondence with a sacred region that was both universal and particular, and reflected like a mirror of water an infinitely rearrangeable image of myself. The saintly ardor that my body felt at this encounter shaped slowly, yet so intensely, a whole new experience of a nascent world. It was a mode of absorption in love. Underneath the glossy surface of the photograph, there was a delicious history that, albeit subsumed in a ghostly time, weaves all these erratic images together, and somehow, somewhere, they all came down to a single mystery, the mystery of my fascination with dolls. Thank you.
Logans is a poet from Oakland, California. He has an MFA in poetry from Mills College. His work has been published in Patrice, Lumumba Anthology, and Variety Pack's special issue Black Voices of Pride. He might describe himself as a rectangular sheet of honey, 30 inches by 62 inches by 6 inches above any surface. Please welcome Brandon.
Thank you. I'm also tall. Okay, I think this is good. You'll see. This was a mistake. Dangly earrings.
Yeah, that's why I'm not fucking about it.
Yeah, we're just gonna do it. Okay, thanks for listening to read. I learned how to hold on to my bones in the hope they could teach me a song of meaning as I fall again and again against the earth. Since I don't know what it means to be alive, I thought perhaps haunting could offer a means to enjoy a body vicariously. I could dream through another's gaze as if a smile is twilight oozing, while being both full and empty at the same time. I hear how hands are meant to hold, but I know them better as tools to brace the throat. NASA discusses whether to launch frozen sperm to the moon, which I think means even the scientists have given up. Someone tries to convince me that sacrifice is in fact the sun, as if self-producing masculinity could be divine. But all I see are patterns of patricide where I'm told, bleed, before bursting salt upon the cheek. I am the screen between the glass. As a body, I exist to keep the insects out. I begin, again, to fall from the cloud and wonder what shape will my moisture take. Out of sequence, my flesh, toes, and adult self fall over my child self. I careen through time, mixing up deadlines with birth rates. I wake up against the sun, blotched and burning, the burning a metaphor, the hips an altar, my jaw replaced with a fistful of fireflies. Okay, this is why you should print this out sometimes. I might struggle with this next one. The state decenters the idea of community while simultaneously displacing the self from the body. I compare my inability to manufacture sustainability in my own life as a reason why I can't possibly help anyone else. Education is often structured to erode the capacity to imagine. I could not see myself past 22 when growing up. My dreams of a future most often were me breathing in other timelines as other people, most often still in alternate faces of death. We are often taught that there is one correct answer, one means to survive successfully here. We are often, imagination becomes sequestered to the artistic or to mentally afflicted projections. My first dream of love ends with a shot through my skull. I don't often have time to cry, so sometimes I wake with tears and the sunlight. Work and consciousness interrupts the body trying to grieve. By reducing concepts of family to nuclear units, feelings of isolation tend to emerge as your home life becomes the act of a square peg trying to fit into star-shaped slots. Here, the state refuses to help you sustain yourself. Your family might help you to sustain yourself. Most often, you begin to relate to yourself as capital. What most usable shape can someone afford to contort themselves into? This requires either dulling the tongue, the way it discerns the bitterness from the rot, or by removing pieces of it to garble your ability to speak clearly. Here, I often consider how we are taught to say yes first instead of communicating how we are feeling. Here, I mean how the body responds to commands or outside instruction. Here, through misuse of the tongue and meaning, we are taught to correct ourselves or to act correctly. Through self-correction, the body begins to continuously doubt its capacity and ability. The nation formulates normal to disorient the body, causing the self to feel wrong. Through wrongness, I find it hard to either dream or to relate. So I often might say, I don't know what to do, or this is overwhelming. By de-emphasizing the imagination, the state ensures we are in a constant state of grief, most often a state of denial. I don't deserve it. I'm not good enough. I am not myself even when looking at the mirror. As a displaced image, I lose sight of anyone else, therefore reinforcing the boundary between myself and my neighbor.
I reinforce the individualism while simultaneously being unable to imagine me as myself, or a time outside of this time, or a future together, let alone imagine a future alone. I have one more. I breathe in and stretch outward with each intake. My head meets water like glass washing over me, the rumble of flood filling my ears. I am fullness. Now a sieve. Weeping and wilting exhale like moon set upon the tongue, bleeding. I wish my brain had the capacity to sleep while awake, appear efficient while still managing rest. I exhale, tide crawling back, ocean curls before the wave, pain splinters across my chest. A casual hand descends up my thigh. I break moon into crescent with teeth. My eyes clamp shut, forget breath between snot. Pain spills from the mouth. Anguish is a small box trying to escape my gums. Storm hips spread out like grease upon the pan. Chunks of the moon fall like crumbs on my chest. I am tense when I smile. I forget momentarily to laugh when spoken to. I undulate my body as if I can be a rippling escape. Lips tremble before I lay myself upon the scales, against feather, word, name. My shadow slips away into the drain. Unmoored, I turn about. Arms and legs struggle against water. The sun breaks momentarily across my skull. I try breathing, but unspooled like this, I can only ingest salt. Hacks of myself across time. Gravity's pressure slips across my collarbone and grabs me by the ass to drag me back down into the deep. I bubble my name, the moon faceless within my iris. Blood fills my nose while I eke viridian into the surrounding blue. Imagine myself as prayer before ghost and fail as my forehead splits open. Imagine myself instead as exhale and sand spent along the beach. I glitch, unable to hold form. I imagine self now as foam rolling upon the earth, bones taking shape as flowers in the air. Chrysanthemum blooms make flesh. I rest against moonrise, momentarily a thunder scream, or perhaps an exhale of debris falling back down to earth. As I solidify upon the upper lip, I rename myself. Necessity.
David Padula is an interdisciplinary writer from Boston, Massachusetts. Their work has explored mental health, addiction, masculinity, and the limits and fluidity of language. They have been published in Angry Old Man and Heads magazines. Currently, David operates Dusted in Exile, an audiovisual outlet that releases written, visual, and sound work in addition to hosting an irregular silent podcast and monthly radio show in Oakland, California. Please welcome David.
I don't remember the last time I used a microphone. I feel like an asshole to write so much about myself. I don't normally dress like a coke dealer, but I'm going to my senior's prom after this, and I told them to show up. Actually, I'm not starting with that one. We are going to go back and forth, digital and my paper, make sure everybody can hear me. These poems are really for people struggling mentally, so shout out to all of you. You guys get double points if you remember to take the meds today. My voice is a little shaky. This first one is called Child Plans Their Own Funeral. They take a child and they dress him up like a man. They remove his face and they tell him to pick. They tell him to pick a new face. This child, sitting at a table in an office building, is being asked to maintain this excess of misery, balancing like a globe on a broken finger. These two go together. Reality is determined by the edge of my skin. Classification. Last year, so-and-so called me dramatic for expressing thoughts of suicide. There are several types of bipolar disorder depending on how we extract the tire from the curb, how we look people in the eye when we walk. When thinking rigidly, at least one comfort you find confusing. 1, 2, 3. This same belief is harmful. I have all I need. I am dragging myself through this every day with dignity. I am worthy of all that is good. It doesn't matter what you do to receive it until you receive it. This is constant. This is every day. This is life. I call the hotline just to hear somebody tell me it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I hear you. This third piece is on my phone, first of all. It's called This Seems to Be It. This seems to be it. The scalpel lands on the floor. The tin cop rusts. The reference cross, the design of a button, the burning desire. Speak and regain nothing. Speaking, transpo, inspo, mediate the echo of a drip, and meditate. Tap, 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 space. Look at the same letters and type the same words. I swing into a piano cafe. The air lounges among us, very concrete, hyperreal and piercing. I feel and I sustain. I exist inside of a song and exit. A song sortles out of my mouth. It leaves behind the rehearsed speeches in a monastic silence, imitating water, under a peach tree, out of season. Imagine a styled rock, a bedless river, drunk with power and blinded by beauty. I pour myself into the nighttime garden. It removes the base from my body, uplifts and softens the edges. Strip, twist, swirl, static. Don't trip. Pluralize me, our interlocking spines. I know there's an end to this. I see it in the flowers and in the flowers wilting. Every day we wake up mourning. I remain unafraid. I will die smiling. I will exit on the tail of a pleasant interaction, or the goodness of people, the point, but it can't be both. Well, life is both an enriching, beautiful, and intimately unifying experience, as well as a hole to nowhere. We divvy ourselves up and present to each other on massive glittering plates. I'm stuck, burnt at the back. These are the tangible consequences of ownership. These delirious scripts, all intravenous, parasocial, proximal, and vicarious. These differences in repetition. What is the meaning of meaning, or the making of man? What is the construction of God? This seems to be it. This seems. Thank you.
All right, I'm about to introduce our last reader. This has been so incredibly fun. I'm sad that it's almost over, but I'm really excited to introduce Shah Noor Hussein, a Sudanese writer, artist, and scholar living and working in unceded territory of the Chokaneo speaking Ohlone people in Oakland, California. They have taught courses and workshops at Stanford, UC Berkeley, and in the local community. Shah works as a writer and editor. You can read their work in the Los Angeles Review of Books, Arrow Journal, Umber, and Kanjul. Their current book project aims to recenter marginalized voices in dialogues on alternative epistemologies and cultural reproductions through a multimedia study of Agani al-Banat, girls' music in the African diaspora. Please welcome Shah.
Go down the
Another
stairs.
bathroom?
Maybe that way.
Just vamp.
1 second. You guys are vamping. I'm going to go ahead and just say that you obviously heard some things that are in the issue. So if you haven't bought your issue, that's where they are.
Yay!
We have free stickers. We have, if you buy something, you get a koozie that you can use for your beers and your LaCroix and you're hanging out by the pool. What else? We are still open for submissions until tomorrow. They're free. We pay.
Yay!
I'm pretty sure that's every year. Yes! Yay! I found awesomely, they'll tell you.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry about my tardiness. It is Ramadan, and so I had to break my fast, come here, get myself together, take a smoke break. You know how it is. And now I'm ready to read with you all. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Shah Noor. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm a Sudanese American artist here on Chetani Wallonie land, living in Oakland. And yeah, I feel like before I start reading, I just want to honor that it is Ramadan and Eid is on Monday, and there's so much going on in the world, and I would like to just offer a moment to honor all Black queer Muslims from Sudan to Palestine to East Oakland to Philly to New York and on. The echoes are endless, so let's just take like 10 seconds, maybe longer, just breathe together. And if you feel so inclined, you can just send a little bit of love, like peace, relaxation, well-being, joy, protection, pleasure, laughter to those Black queer Muslims everywhere who deserve it. Thank you. So I'm going to start with this poem that I wrote for the Moab in response to Billie Zengewa's work, who is a Malawian artist, and she was on exhibit in the Moab for quite a while, and she had these 3 pieces. One was called Angel at My Bedside, 2020. One was called Self-Care Sunday, and another was called Paradise. And together they really made me think a lot about rest and self-care and innocence and, you know, angels and paradise and what that can offer us. And so this is, again, dedicated to all Black queer Muslims out there and everyone who really just deserves peace in this world. And right now it's sort of untitled, and it's also called Abolition Beach Dreams. I dreamt about Mama on the beach again, about floating off to sea, see her there looking back at me. Or was she just lounging or just standing on the shoreline with her hand to brow and squinting, just to make sure I was out there somewhere bobbing on the horizon? I still don't know if it was real, but it was felt. And I wonder, what does it mean to feel paradise? To know it in an embodied sense and a spiritual heart? What does it mean to feel it like a warm sun on your neck, like a gentle push of breeze, like the sounds of home vibrating around you? What does it mean to return to a paradise lost? To show up on the Nile shores and find it has been destroyed. Piles of burning rubber where your memories once lived, and closed fences around Hosh Abuk, and a strange sense that maybe the porch would never be open to the street again. And what does it mean to seek paradise knowing that it is lost, knowing that both home and paradise don't have a location fixed in space, but are moving parts in this diaspora puzzle. What does it mean to make paradise? Wherever you are. Knowing that it too may be lost in time, but to not cling to this outcome, to wrestle with the process, to collaborate on the creation, and maybe just have some fun along the way. What does it mean to seek joy and rest and paradise for Black people at the end of times? What will it feel like and look like? For me, I imagine moments of freedom strung together like prayer beads I offer to the ocean. I imagine no prisons, no police, no military, just vibes. I imagine everyone I love in one place, if only for a moment, and I imagine running water and loud birds and a dry breeze. I imagine self-care Sunday every day and angels at my bedside. And you, I imagine you. Thank you. So I feel like, because this is a reading for Foglifter, I should read the piece that's in Foglifter. I really like this piece. It's called frottage, which is a word that means like friction, like rubbing together. And I was inspired to write this poem by Kagoro Mashiria's book called Frottage, Frictions of Intimacy in the Black, or Across the Black Diaspora. And I was also inspired by Lavelle Ridley and her essay, Imagining Otherly. And so this is Frottage, where I imagine me and my homie, my homegirl, my Black trans friend, we're going out. We're on an adventure. Swerve at the intersection to meet Frottage on the corner and take her to get her nails done. At the salon, she tells you about her body, about how it changes every day as it rubs up against this hard world. You think about her transformations, about how her proximity to death is all anyone else knows, but you know her persistence. The way she shows up daily, arriving and re-arriving, meeting bodies in space again and again, asserting her aesthetics of presence again and again. You tell her about diaspora, its persistence, how it's showing up over and over just to get dirty, about how it's putting your hands in the soil and pulling up roots and taking them to your grandma and asking her if you can plant them in her garden and if she will help, and how Boba offers to watch and guide. And while Frottage's nails dry, you think about how tired you are, about how it's so exhausting to capture this existence. Already arrested, already tied in a hold, already buried, bombed, and ignored. You wonder about the way out of this no way, about which methods will make this imagined and otherly into a lived reality. And on the way home, Frottage asks if we can stop at the gas station. We buy some sweet things we don't need because it brings us joy, and we could always afford more joy. Yeah, we could always afford more joy. Thank you. How much time do I have? I feel like
You can write a couple more.
okay.
Yeah.
I feel like, way back when I was like, I got 2 poems, that's it. That's all I got, but I wrote a little list. So since I'm Sudanese, since it's Ramadan and I'm in the theme, I'm gonna read this poem that I wrote, like a decade ago at this point, but I love this poem. I love to read it over and over again. It's different than how I wrote it. It's called Sudanese Women, and Sudanese women with eyes of coal open wide like their hands in prayer, their lips whispering verses of memorized poetry over the cries of young babies sharing a crib down the hall under a leaky roof. Bismillah. They ask in many ways for the same thing, sanity and sanctity amongst the chaos of a city they never chose. In a continent full of pastels, their vibrant coves never stood a chance. The odd fabric weighing heavy against the heavy glares, against thousands of eyes meeting you uneasily on street corners. Alhamdulillah. They ask in many ways for the same things and search for the answers inscribed on the interiors of teacups, formed from the residues of first and last sips. They ask in many ways for the same things and look for the answers in the patterns the seashells form as they're scattered against a warm carpet. The fortune teller shares a story in which I carry a textured cloth like a string throughout time, and my 13-year-old eyes open wide to recount every detail. Inshallah, don't forget this, she says. But in an instant, she sweeps up the Nile in the palm of her hands, and I almost forgot it was ever there. I almost forgot. The sweet smell of burgundy burning on hot coals. I almost forgot. The sound of rice shuffling on tin sheets. I almost forgot. The texture of the scar near my grandmother's heart. I almost forgot. My auntie's silver lining voice in the airwaves above it all. Alhamdulillah, I did not forget. MashaAllah. My mother asked me to bring the dates, but not in the cheap plastic containering from the Arabic store. I arranged them daintily on a ceramic plate fringed with gold, thinking of all the sunflowers sitting in my living room and how they ask you not to look the sun directly in her eye. Thanks. You said a couple, but I don't know what a couple means. Do I have like 5 more minutes? 5.
Sure, do a couple more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. I like y'all, so I'm gonna I'm gonna read something that's like still in draft mode. It's very much so in the notes folder on my phone. Yeah, I didn't mention, but all the other pieces I've read so far are published. So this one is very drafty, and I'm just gonna pull it up. My notes folder had a malfunction. Okay. According to this notes folder, this was written on the cusp of midnight, November of last year, about a month actually after the military coup happened in Sudan for the second time in the last 5 years. So in 2018 we had one, 4 months of sustained protests. In 2019 the 30-year dictatorship stepped down. And there was celebration and joy and a lot of happiness and a lot of hopefulness for what could come for Sudan, and we still believe in that, we still hold that. But in October 2021, another coup happened, and instead of handing the power over to civilians, another military dictatorship took over, and so we're still in sustained protest now. This affects every Sudanese person, and everyone who lives in exile and diaspora outside of home, struggling to find what that is, right? And so in a lot of in my body, I wrote this poem that is about Black queer Sudan, that is like a vision for what it would be like if I could go home. Even without the military, what would it be like to be Black and queer and out and open and free in Sudan? I don't have a title for this, and it has a lot of Arabic words that are not translated, and you're just gonna, imagine with me. Imagine what I'm talking about. I'm sure you can fabulate. But yeah, this is called Black Queer Sudan, roughly. Black Queer Sudan is me, not Esbalatia, but Farhana, walking in the streets sans hijab, wa koisa, wa ma battala, wa ma bizol shagal be. Black Queer Sudan is me with my locks out and my piercings visible and my tattoos on display, wa ma bizol indu kalam, wa ma bizol shagal be. Black Queer Sudan is wearing pants to the wedding and lipsticks too. Is saying yes or no to henna and deciding for yourself which side of the salah to sit on. Black Queer Sudan is deciding for yourself which side of the salah to sit on. Black Queer Sudan is going back and forth between both. Black Queer Sudan is sneaking cigarettes and booze on my grandmother's rooftop while trying to explain to my male cousin that I'm gay by talking about Black feminism and my lack of interest in marriage, and all the qualities that put me in opposition to compulsory heteronormativity. I don't cook good. I won't clean up after him. I want to wander alone. I will want to wander alone. I will want alone. I will want. Black Queer Sudan is sneaking out of my auntie's house with my cousin, both of us on a mission to talk to our boos, and knowing mine was a woman, and knowing mine was queer, and knowing mine. Black Queer Sudan is my uncle crossing his legs defiantly when asked about marriage and proclaiming, "It sounds like unwanted labor to me." Black Queer Sudan is my Khatu rejecting men's proposals and waiting for the one who either could not offer what she wanted or did not want it as deeply. In the same way, Black Queer Sudan is me at the Sheikh's house and trying not to squirm and unsure of what was happening and craving to tap in. Black Queer Sudan is subtle as smirk. At the center of my frame is me consuming the role just to catch her and her smile. Thank you.
I don't know why I'm the boss.
I don't know who's the boss.
You're the boss.
I'm the boss? Okay, cool. Well, boss me says, I have two more on my list. But maybe I'll just read this last one. The theme of Sudan going really strong. I'm gonna read this piece called Bridge. Sometimes I have friends who send me words as prompts, and someone sent me Bridge as a prompt. And I wrote this poem, and it was published in the LA Review of Books. So shout out to friends who send you prompts. Okay. So this one is called Bridge. And it's in 3 parts. So 1. We take the bridge, one of many roads in the town that leads you to Al-Kubri, connecting the desert across a vast expanse of Al-Nil. There are many bridges, many places where we cross the river. Most are simple and uniformly built, unassuming and unextravagant, and lovely just the same. The bridge crossing Durman to Khartoum is the most common one we take. From the suburbs to downtown and back again, I travel this road daily, back and forth to the movies, the weddings, and just about every good restaurant. Each time I would anticipate the feeling of the wind. As it shifts as we approach the bridge, the air is just a little different over the water. I draw in a deep breath once we begin to cross, and then I slowly start to exhale. I release carefully and with control, extending my exhale for as long as I can and drawing it out as until we reach the other side. A small ritual. From my cousin's university, we can see just another kubri. This one is connecting Bahri to Durman. I never realized how wide the Nile was until I tried to frame it in a photo. 2. Bridge, a noun. A conduit between 2 places, landlocked. Not my back. Ascension. Ascension. 3. They stand at the shores, dusty at sunset, and sit in grassy fields, and underneath the overpass, they march down city streets, occupying kitchens and classrooms and grandmother's holish. Just fall. This is the call ringing from Al-Kubri, le Al-Masjid, le Al-Souk, le Al-Bayt, le Al-Noor. They stand in the dust of a windstorm, at the shore, at sunset and at sunrise, making this bridge to freedom. Thank you. You can follow me on Instagram at shahnoor, SHAH__NOOR, shahnoor. Thanks, everybody.
I'll take the mask off one time.
one more second to thank everyone who came here tonight. I also just want to thank our incredible staff. Making a queer and trans literary magazine during a global pandemic is not easy, and they are all amazing. And they're not just here, they are across the country, they're across the world. And also all of our amazing contributors, our guest editors for this issue are incredible, and also our readers and the people who subscribe. Thank you all. This means so much to each and every one of us, and I hope it means a lot to you too. So thank you. Have a great night.
I'd love to invite all the readers to come up here so I can take a group photo of y'all, if that's okay.